All right, what's happening, everybody? And we're here today going to basically, when it comes to camera news and everything about like film and everything in the film world, the last 60 days been the news outbreak for cameras. And the thing is, ironically, I really don't care about any of them. Like I'm impressed with some of them, but like I really don't care about nothing that has came out so far. And the reason why I don't care about them is not that they're boring or they're not any interesting or that they're not useful. It's just that pertaining to me, they don't do enough what I like it to do for me to like them. Let me elaborate. So three cameras came out. Well, technically four, but we're talking about four cameras, and um, three came out. Not actually, yeah, they came out. None of them are out to buy yet. They're all been announced. um, and three of them have their first look, and another one is just a we just saw Black Magic show their reveal. So we're talking about the Canon R5, the Canon R6, the A7S3, and the Blackmagic Ursa Mini 12K, or I'm gonna call it the Ursa 12K. And now I'm gonna talk about like what they all have and why I didn't really interest me that much. And the first thing is the fact that one, the 12 Ursa 12K, it for me, K doesn't matter. I always find the sweet spot is 6K. It's something quite a bit above, is quite a bit above 4K, so that I actually can downsample and I would get a good boost in 4K. Downsampling from 8K, it's it's there, but not much better than 6K, where I'll say that it makes a difference. But I do say that downsampled 6K is significantly better than just regular native 4K. I don't care what you tell me. It just looks sharper. And there's actually multiple factors that make an image sharper. And that's why I'm kind of interested in other things. The A7S3, that's probably the most interesting, but I'm gonna get into that later. But right now, I'm just gonna talk about like why they're none of them are interesting to me at the moment. But yeah, the Ursa 12K, it seems like it's exactly like the Ursa Mini Pro or Ursa G2, but just 12K. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's an amazing camera. It's great. It's probably what everyone needs, that everyone would like to see, and especially for the price point. We're talking about $10,000, and some people will actually use this to make Netflix film, and they would actually take advantage of the 12K downsample to 4K to have the sharpest image that they can, because Netflix series in the sharpest image they can looks super attractive. I'm talking about like 13 Reasons Why, Stranger Things, um, even what was it? What's that show? What's that other show? Money Heist. The sharper they look, the better they look. There's actually an artistic taste when things are really sharp, and I know a lot of people say like, oh, it's too sharp, and I want to give it some character. And I always believe that sharpness has a character in itself. It feels so much more present. It feels so much more modern. It feels so much today. There's nothing futuristic about it, because you can make something sharp and make it look futuristic. That's very possible. And then some people would take it, oh, I want to soften it up to make it look like a dystopia or like a fantasy future. And people can do it that way. Or they want to look like the past, so they want to soften up the image a little bit. Or they want to make it a beautiful image, so they soften it up. But I really do think there's a good place, especially in 2020, for high resolution like 12K. And then we're talking about 12K is 64 1080p videos cram into one frame. That's amazing. That's an insane amount. I would not think of using 12K to reframe and cropping. I know a lot of people keep saying that, and yes, there's probably people that take advantage of that and constantly do that. I always find that like cropping in should be kind of used for stabilization in post if you really want to keep it smooth. But to justify getting something that's 8K for only those reasons, it really is dependent on what you're doing. Like the people that take action shots all the time, and you know they they reframe constantly, and they really want to punch in, and they kind of really focus on other things and want and use the 8K to save their workflow as their workflow. Then yeah, that suits them. Um, but the 12K part, it it's cool. It's not interesting to me because one, as far as I know, I would love to see the specs some more and like see how they run. It's a decently compressed 12K. Um, so take it as you will. I kind of rather have uncompressed raw than compressed raw, and I kind of view compressed raw equivalent to a lesser resolution raw version. Like um, if you ask me like, hey, would you like 6K Canon raw light or 4K um Blackmagic full raw DNG Blackmagic full raw, and I say I'd rather have the full raw because one thing is that when, as far as I know, when it comes to colors, they break apart a lot less than having a compressed version. And I always find compressed raw as just ProRes raw or 12-bit ProRes. And there's nothing wrong with 12-bit ProRes. 12-bit ProRes is amazing. Actually, just that 12-bit part is what makes it unbelievably incredible to work with. But $10,000, I really would put my money towards something else that will give me the whole package. That's just my opinion. Some YouTubers have the money, they'll buy it, whatever. It means $10,000 mean nothing. I've seen YouTubers buy something in a heartbeat just because they like it. Apparently, they have $10,000, $15,000 laying around. There's YouTubers that had cameras that just went out and they already purchased it full price. Same thing with the Blackman. Oh, with not Blackman. Same thing with the um, Canon C500 Mark II. $16,000 and people bought it in a heartbeat. The one good thing about the Blackmagic 12K is the fact that it can take SSDs. That's pretty cool, and I'm actually gonna get into why I like the cameras that I like right now, and these cameras don't interest me that much. But that's probably the closest to what I like. And then there's the Canon R5 and R6. So a lot of what I'm going to say about the R5 is actually similar to why I'm not that interested in R6. First of all, one, they are both incredible for photography, but there's a caveat. Even though that I'm a video first guy, I love video. I do love taking great photos, and the R5 is probably the best well-rounded overall photo camera that's probably out right now. I really mean like the full circle because there's nothing that it does particularly that's above and beyond. And really take my word for it when I say like if it's simply because there's another company that made a camera in that category to excel above and beyond in sacrifice of other things. So when it comes to specifically photography and no compromise, the AR5 is that camera. It is that camera. The thing you compromise is money. You pay a lot of money for what you're getting. But so if we're talking about like a resolution for a camera for full frame, no, there's two cameras right now that has more megapixels per for full frame. Not talking about medium format, just full frame. That's the Leica SL2 at 47 megapixels and the A7R4 at 61 megapixels. And those images are actually significantly sharper because of the megapixel count, just comparing megapixels. And then if we're talking about really fast photography shooting, probably the A9 beats it, not by much. We're talking about like without with electronic shutters, we're talking about like literally 3 frames difference per second. It just takes photos just more. And also the eye autofocus nearly match. Like Jared Polin talked about it. It's almost literally tailing what Sony is doing. when it comes to eye autofocus, and that goes both for the A9 and the R4. And when it comes to clarity, nothing. Leica is king. Leica SL2 is actually incredible color and clarity, but the RF mount lenses are incredible, and especially being some of the fastest autofocus lens to come out with the 1.2 lineup, and also the f2 zooms, which literally besides Sigma, if it wasn't for Sigma, Sony would have no option that actually competes with that. And then as for like, overall as a photography camera, focus, megapixels, color and sharpness, no, even though I mentioned multiple cameras that actually beats it, and not by much, just a small margin, the Canon, none of them are as well rounded as a camera. The the R4 is half the speed of the Canon. The A9 doesn't have as much megapixels as the Canon. It's around like half the megapixel of the Canon. So you see where the pattern is going there. And also, the Leica SL2 actually doesn't have nearly the focus. Nothing in comparison to the Canon. Like the Leica is great, but it's not as run and gun. And when you talking about the R5, if a company came to me and said that three companies, Nikon, Canon, Sony, Leica, and Fuji, said, "Hey, pick our camera and three lenses up from our brand, and we'll pay you to be a sports photographer, or a wedding photographer, or both, or just something super versatile where I need all of that work all at once." I'll pick Canon because that versatility is amazing. And for me, like, I kind of want the camera to do both. Even though I like to keep my things separate, I kind of like the option. I'd rather have it and not need it. And the fact that I always want to record and the camera's full capability, the full usage, the full power of the camera, and the fact that I can't take video to even the max 4K 24 frames per second if I took photos first, kind of is a problem for me. And then the thing is that the Canon R5 is such a photography first camera that it inhibits itself from even being the best it can be for photo. That's just the way it is. For all the photographers that ordered the R5, you did a great job snagging it while you can. It's gonna be amazing. It's gonna do great work for you. So for me, like, I kind of want to steer away from that. The thing is, like, is that it's in my mind that the best quality that it could be, and I can't use it, kind of bothers me. And also my issue, other thing is that, like, it's the price point, and not that it's bad. It's very good. It's exactly what I'm expecting for a shooting camera, like photography camera of that caliber to be. Do not get me wrong, but it's when I use it in video mode and the fact that it will perform worse than a $1,000 7-year-old camera that's APS-C from Sony, the A6000. It'll perform worse than that, even though it's taking much better video, but the performance is the same. That's where I kind of have an issue. So I don't want to. I'm already Team Sony, and the only other team I'm gonna jump on is Team Blackmagic and Sony. And the only way I'll ever jump to Canon is the C500 Mark II. That's the only if ands or buts with me. But that's the only part that really makes me not interested in the R5. But going to the R6, this actually makes it a little bit worse. One, it doesn't have 8K and it overheats. I kind of have a little issue with that. But in the photography aspects, it's 20 megapixels. I'm sorry, like, as far as I know, the Canon EOS R, the one that came out 2 years ago, is 30 megapixels. I'm wondering why is the R6 less than. For me, in my mind, I'm thinking the R6 supposed to be exact same megapixels as the EOS R with the added bonus of video recording with no crop. Like I would even take 15 frames of shooting per second. I'd rather have that than 20 megapixels. I know like some people like megapixels don't count, doesn't matter. 20 megapixels was more than enough. I'm like, no, it's not. Like, for $2,700 or for $2,500, it is not enough. And I'm gonna be one of those people that megapixels do matter to me, because for me, I love eye popping, disgustingly powerful, large file pictures. I love them. And you know what? I also do crop in my pictures. Not a lot, but I do love to do creative crops. Sometimes the composition I see in person, and then when I play with it in my computer, there's something I see in it, like really cropping in. Sometimes that's not. That's a 1 out of 4 times I'm doing that, but I do that pretty often though. And 20 megapixels, that's not gonna cut it for me. And the reason why like that matters to me is because even if I get that camera for video, for what it can do without overheating, um, my issue is sometimes if that's the only camera I have and I want to take pictures with it, I'm kind of bothered that it's only 20 megapixels, even though I'm paying that much, where I can shoot 1080p, really good 1080p on the OSR and get 30 megapixels. Because I'm not trying to. This camera is right here is around like 6 or 7 years old. The EOS R6 is not even old any day old because it hasn't released yet of time of recording. But my point is that like this 7-year-old camera has higher megapixels than this camera, and megapixels don't mean anything. But there's no reason why I should go backwards in and technology. And I know a lot of you guys gonna say this because this is about to be the next camera I'm about to talk about, which is the A7S III. The reason why I'm not complaining about the 12 megapixel in A7S III is because it's not meant for that. It's not meant for photo. It's strictly meant for video. It doesn't matter. But the R6 is meant for both. It has those fast shutters. It has those eye autofocus, animal eye autofocus. It has all those features in it for better photos. It has a 5-axis stabilization. By the way, the wobble doesn't matter to me because I'm aware of where the problem starts and where does it stop. And it really stops at like 16 or 17 millimeters, which is plenty enough to vlog with. And the wobble is not meant for video, by the way, guys. The 5-axis stabilization, the IBIS, that is specifically meant for photography. And apparently, when people take photos with it, it's so rock steady with that. I'm letting you guys know right now that 5-axis stabilization, apparently it's amazing, and I believe it because this has very low weak IBIS, and even then, it does me really good. I know how to work with it, and the fact that I just recently learned that Sony puts out shitty IBIS, I'm like, imagine really good IBIS, and then when I rather have too much than too little, so I can work with what will work with too much. So either way, unless it starts vibrating on its own. Cool things about it. One takes SD cards. That's pretty damn awesome. And the same slot takes CFS Express Type A cards. That's pretty amazing. The fact that you have a choice, so that as you grow and earn more money and you buy better memory cards, your camera grows with you. So there's that growth factor into effect. You can get it at an entry level. You can bust all your money on it. You can. Would it be worth it? Depends how you look at it. It really depends how you look at it. But I'm about to get into that why none of them interest me in a moment. Very good at low light. That's pretty cool. Clean low light is actually kind of important. The only part that really interests me about this camera is the fact that you can record externally raw 16-bit. 16-bit color is insane amount of color detail, and color detail makes the image look sharper because then there's more color detail means there's less color being grouped together, which looks less pixelated, which makes the image sharper. If you watch the last 2 episodes of 13 Reasons Why season 4, If you watch the last two episodes, those things look like a movie. It is so ridiculously sharp, and it's 6K, and 8K is actually double the resolution of 6K. If you guys don't know that, and this 6K image looks sharper than most and than all the 8Ks I've ever seen. It is just unbelievably sharp, and of course, like in the right scenario, 8K could look sharper, but that color detail I saw with 16-bit, I'm wondering why not enough camera companies are adopting 16-bit. I know the engineering is hard, and something Sony is doing probably has a patent. I don't know for sure. I'll do more research, but it is incredible, and they're gonna bring that to the A7S III. I'm I'm wondering. I'm trying to see. I want to see it first. I want to see how good is it, and if there's limitations. Because right now, with the trend of the cameras coming out, there are some limitations. Right now, the limitations of the A7S III is actually getting compatible memory cards. That's been an issue. The limitations of the R lineup is overheating, and the limitations of the Blackmagic 12K is that it's compressed, and or there's cropping, or there's other things. Um, I'm not complaining about these things. I'm not complaining about any of this. These are all amazing cameras, and they have all different reasons to exist. And in a different world, in those scenarios where I have money and I could get them, I'll get an A7 R5 for photography, because I've seen. If you ever seen Irene work, she's an amazing photographer, and she's been a Canon shooter all the time for 10 years, I believe. And the fact that her most colorful, most vivid, bright, and richest work are from the R5, it makes that big of a difference. And Blackmagic, I love Blackmagic so much so that I keep saying that, like, Blackmagic $2,000 Pocket 6K is the best camera out. I think is the best camera in the world. I really do, because it's just at that perfect resolution, price, and budget world workflow. So much so that, like, there's no excuse that in a medium budget set that you don't have multiple of these cameras, and they don't all have to be rigged out. Some of them can be on a gimbal, some of them can be on a drone, some of them can be with a guy running. There's so many scenarios, and memory for it is super cheap. And so Blackmagic, there's nothing I'm complaining about any of these cameras. They just don't interest me, because there are cameras out there right now that does what I would want those cameras to do better. And when I say what I want them to do better, is because the price point. Um, $10,000 for the Ursa 12K. $10,000. What can I do with $10,000? I actually can get. I probably can get either the C300 Mark III. I don't mind all the down resing from 12K to 4K, but I get 4K with autofocus, and I have 4K with almost 17 stops of dynamic range. And the where I lose is the fact that it takes CFS Express cards to actually work with it, and it takes a lot of memory to actually get what I want. But I get autofocus, so there's that. There's also, I can get probably a couple Blackmagics, 6Ks, and I can also get an FS7 fully rig with extension unit and lens for that price, and that's 4K raw. If we're talking about $4,000 for a photography camera, that's probably a A7R4 with a Sigma lens, which is super sharp and high megapixels. If we're talking about, like, for a video camera, $4,000, because I'm grouping the A7S with the R4 for that price range. Again, the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema 6K. You really can't beat that $2,000 price point. And if you say, well, it doesn't have IBIS or autofocus, well, $2,000 plus $500 for a gimbal, plus $600 for a Tilta Nucleus Nano. Probably can get two of them, so that will actually bump it up another $400 for the Iris. Get a Zine Cine lens, and probably get also for another $400 a Hollyland wireless feed. $300 for a, what is it? What's it called? $300 for a, it's on my Amazon. Yeah, so you get a Atmos Shinobi 5 inch for $300. So right now we're like 500, 700, 300, so like 1500, 3500. And then, uh, well, actually, you know something. Well, actually, we're talking about if to actually get a EOS R5 up and running, would you need, I say you don't even work without a terabyte, and terabytes $800, and then a lens, the lens that are usable and that maximize the R5 is $2,000, and the A7S is actually a bit less than that. If we're talking about like probably $1,500 in lens, and a terabyte memory card is only like $100. But we're adding the $2,000, so $6,000 to actually no 6,000, $7,000. So I get a Zine lens, I can have wireless follow focus, I can have a gimbal, I can have a wireless feed to a Shinobi external monitor, and I can have a V mount battery plate that actually battery that can plate onto the bottom of the Blackmagic. So all in all, like for the price of to get a R5 or A7S up and running, I can get all of that in a much more better performing package with a Blackmagic. That's why none of them interest me. It's because that with the price of all that, all these cameras are at a price point that like it's amazing they exist, and I'm glad they do, and I can't wait for them to get cheaper. It, price point is a major factor of owning these cameras, and a lot of people say that like, oh, like what it does is great, and it does. I really mean it. But it's just the fact that everything exists right now. I can't dismiss what already came out and that are at discount and that are amazing what it does. Like Blackmagic full uncompressed raw. Well, actually, you have to record some of it compressed, but you can get a T7 drive, not a T5, a T7 Samsung drive, and record Q0, as far as I know, without any frame drops. Black 6K raw uncompressed for $2,000, for $2,130. You can't. No one can argue with that. No one. You can't. Oh, and also, let me know what you guys think, because I know I rambled on like why I'm not interested in them. I'm not saying they're not interesting. I'm just not interested in them because what exists, especially like where I'm at and my work, I'm not at the level where I'm comparing. Do I spend the money for an Alexa? I'm gonna wait till it comes out to see if I can get something that will work in my workflow better than Alexa. That's a different mindset to be in a position where you can make film, but you will start to save money if you just own your own camera, and you kind of need a high productive camera. That's a little bit different. But for wedding photographers, if I have to say any camera that will actually save you or do you nice, it depends on how you shoot. If you're the type of person that move fast, shoot all the time, and I like to capture the moment, and you really just trying to be a fly on the wall, just keep in the background, just keep either zooming in and out. I know this clicking around and everything. Then probably the EOS R5 is probably the best bet, especially with the zoom lineup. The zoom lineup is amazing, and very fast lenses. The other thing I was gonna say is that if you are a bit more pace with your work, you actually just take it a little bit slower. You interact with people as you're shooting. I would say the R4 closer to your best bet. It's very, you can get very intimate with them, and especially with those high megapixel count, getting intimate. You can get intimate with R5. I'm not excluding that. It's meant for that too. You can do it. I'm just saying what you would lean towards too. You can be any personality and work with an R4. You can be any personality and work with any camera. You really can. It just sometimes just certain cameras will hold you back. With these two cameras I'm talking about, none of them will hold you back. They're both amazing. I'm not dismissing the A7S III. It's just not for me. I really am. I'm actually trying my best to branch away from the mirrorless camera world to something that's a bit more specified and does it better. Me, if I stick with Sony, if I don't get a Blackmagic Pocket 6K, I'm getting the FS5 or FS7, specifically because they can shoot true RAW, and they have SDI, and they have other features that actually is very, very attractive to me. That's just how I want to do things. That's my pattern of growth. I'm not trying to make a production camera out of a point of a basically a point and shoot. The reason why I say that is because like I'm trying to exaggerate what I'm saying to emphasize what I'm trying to say. I'm not trying to make a production camera out of a stills camera. I'm not trying to take a entry level camera into a professional world. I'm trying to group everything that I need to be in the field that they're supposed to be in. Technically, the R5 is supposed to be a photography camera, and everyone in the photography world loves this camera. They're saying amazing things, and everyone in the film world are very bothered by this camera. They're saying horrible things. And then everyone in the film world for the A7S III, some of them are calling it the best camera for YouTubers, and some of them calling it the best all around great amazing camera. And again, for what it is, a handheld camera that you can vlog with, it's amazing. The dynamic range and the fact that you can wait late in the day and still have something to record. You actually can, if you're in a city in low light, you is looks amazing at 4K 120. These people are literally glorifying it because they're just wanting the little tweaks that they want in a full camera to really boost up their YouTube video, and it does. It makes the hugest difference. It allows room for creativity, and in those moments where people are dumping things into their hard drives and actually editing it, color grading it, and using it, people are finding themselves using more of A7S III videos than cameras before. Because there's a lot of footage and shots that we have that we say it's unusable, and then we're trying to get the cameras that make those moments usable, better looking, oh amazing, and having good low light makes it happen. Having 240 frames per second, 1080p makes it happen. So these cameras are great. These cameras are fantastic. Not for what I'm looking for. $3,000, 3,000 plus dollars. I can put it towards somebody else that does it better. And Gerald Undone said it before. You can get the A7S III and A7R4, and it renders the reason to get any other camera useless, and kind of does, unless you're getting a full production camera. For me, I would say the eight, probably the A7R4 and the C actually, yeah, the Blackmagic Pocket 7 6K. Get the A7R4 and the Blackmagic Pocket 6K, and then it renders getting any other camera kind of useless. It really does. Especially if you budget everything, like I said before, with the gimbal, follow focus, and everything, battery, and wireless feed. It kind of it takes quite a bit to even upgrade from that, and that's why I like that value. That's how I value things. Like how does this camera grow with me, and how much of a better camera would I consider it as a better camera? It's like anything within the price point of like within the price of like $3 or $4 or $5,000 of the Blackmagic 6K, and the Blackmagic 6K is very comparable, it's very close. And if it's much more expensive where I can fill in the gap with materials that actually that supports the Black 6K, then I choose the 6K. Like for me, the camera that is actually that reached the point of being better than the 6K is the C500 Mark II. For me, like the C300 Mark III, it's a trade off. I get 4K instead of 6K, but I get autofocus. I get SDI and XLR ports, multiple XLR ports, but I had to pay for more memory and a more expensive body. I can, it's much more modular, it's much more expensive. So it's the trade off. And what nudged the C500 more is that I get 6K, I get 6K full frame. I'm like, maybe compressed, but I'll take it with autofocus and SDI. And also redundant recording. I can record multiple things at once. So that's good. I actually could record, I think, 3 times. Actually, 4. Proxy, two CFS Express, and also external monitor. So that's good. But either way, I've been talking too much. Please, guys, let me know what you think. I will see you guys soon. Be safe.